Hi everyone. So we'll start in like 30 seconds. We'll just wait for folks to join in and then we'll start in about 30 seconds. Just hold on for 30 seconds. All right. So I think we can get started now and people can join in as they are able to and we'll get started, right? So good evening, everyone. Today is Sunday, 18th of February. You could have chosen to be anywhere doing whatever you may have wanted to, but you chose to learn something new today. So I congratulate you to begin with. And now we'll get started, right? So today I just want to talk about a topic which many people find it a little difficult as to how do they set clear financial goals, right? They understand the concept that unless they plan something, unless they plan their financial goals, probably this is going to be very difficult for them to meet it. But they really do not know how to get started and what is the mechanics behind doing this and then how to do it in a manner which is easy for everybody, right? So today I'm going to teach you a framework, right, which is what I've also devised as a acronym, which is called goals, GOALS. And this is going to be a 5-step process, right? So think of it this way, that not just you'll be able to learn this, but you'll be also able to remember this forever with the help of this goals framework, right? So this is what we are going to do today. We are going to take one step at a time and understand the different levels of this framework. So again, reiterating, our objective is to understand how do we set our clear financial goals, and we are going to understand this through a framework. So let's get started, right? So what is the first step? The first letter in goals is G, and what do we do with G, right? So with G, what I mean is that we gain clarity of what do we want to do, right? So we need to have a plan. We need to have clarity on our goals, but that is the first thing that we need to start with, right? I mean, we cannot achieve anything, be it financial or any other subject or any other area of our life, unless and until we do have clarity as to what exactly we want to achieve. So the very first step is where we need to understand what exactly is we want to achieve. Are we wanting to achieve a debt free status? Are we wanting to achieve a financial free life? What is it that we want to do, right? And everybody's definition of financial freedom may be a little different, right? For somebody it may be just taking care of their current expenses, right? And for someone else it may be slightly elevated lifestyle, right? Or a lifestyle where they can actually splurge a lot, right? They do not have anything that they need to worry about in terms of budgeting, and they are able to lead a life of abundance. So all of this is something which we will need to be very clear to as to begin with, right? As to what exactly we understand when we say what is our own objective, the whole objective that we want to achieve at the end of the day, right? So ideally, the first step goal of goals is gain clarity, and gain clarity of what? Gain clarity of the end state, because the way we are required to do this is that we will need to have an understanding of where we are right now, and then where do we want to reach, right? What are the goals that we want to achieve at the end of the financial journey? And we backtrack, right? We backtrack and define all of these steps as to what are the different milestones that we need to go through, and that is the way we are going to progress this further, right? So the first step is gain clarity on what is the outcome, and then also there is another element to the first step, G, is that gain clarity on where you are right now. So what we are going to do in this step is that we are going to assess where we stand right now, at present where we are, right? And then where do we want to go? What is our eventual goals, eventual end state that we want to reach? And once we have a clarity on both, then we can move to the next step. So I'm just summarizing. In our goals framework, the first letter is G, and what we try to understand right now is that we need utmost clarity on where we are right now, what is our current financial standing, and where do we want to go? What is our eventual goal that we want to achieve? I'll give you a few examples because different people can be in different situations, and for everybody, their starting point may be different, right? Their end point may be the eventual goal may be different as well. So ideally, the way you should look at it as that you figure out right where exactly you are right now. Somebody may be having a debt of let's say 50 lakhs, right? Somebody may be having a debt of let's say 2 crores. There may be people who may be living a debt free life, right? They want to save first. They are usually habitual of saving first and then buying stuff, right? They are living a life of delayed gratification in that case. So what is going to happen in that case, that both of these people will not be having the same current state, right? And that ways, even if their eventual goal is the same, they will have a different milestones, right? So just understand that gaining clarity is the utmost thing which is required to begin with. If not done right, then most of the steps that we are going to talk about subsequently is just going to falter. So that is the first step, gain clarity. Now, moving on to the second element, which is O, outline objectives. Once we know where we are right now, right, whether we are cash rich, whether we are in a debt right now, or whether we are not having any debt but not having any cash positions as well, or not having any investments as well. Once we discover all of these, then we'll need to define our clear cut outline as to why, what do you want to achieve, and then define clear achievable financial goals out of that, right? So let's say somebody is, again I'll take this as an example, take an example to help you understand that, right? Somebody who is not having any debt at this point in time, even if they bought a home or not, does not really matter. What matters is that whether they are into debt or not at this point in time. So somebody who, a family which is not in debt right now, they can actually start their investing journey, right? And actually start aggressively tracking their lifestyle or life stage goals through investments. But another family which is into debt right now, right? Let's say personal loans, or a couple of credit card outstandings, maybe loans taken from family members, relatives, or maybe a car loan, a house loan, or whatsoever, right? So the first objective that this family will have is that let us first clear all the debt and become debt free first. And once that is done, then only it makes sense to start investing. Because most of the times what will happen is that if you have debt, then you are paying interest on the debt that you have taken. And in that case, if you cannot uh, generate an investment return more than the interest that you're paying on your debt, then it makes no sense to continue with the debt and simultaneously start investing as well, right? So that is where the trick lies, right? For this family who is into debt right now, it will be very, very crucial for them to first become debt free. And that is why the gaining clarity on where you stand right now becomes utmost important for you to set your outlines or the objectives going forward. So these are two examples. I hope it may have helped you clarify as to how setting the objectives is very important. And while setting the objectives, it may come out that if it makes sense to keep some portion of the debt on your balance sheet because you're getting tax benefits and all of these, or your loan tenure is not tenure is like just 2 years left, right? And you really do not want to let go of it because you have a cash surplus or things like that, you can still continue to hold it. But what I'm saying is that you need to be very conscious, right? And then the decisions that you are taking should be totally conscious, right? You should not be just doing things at random which are not as per your plans, right? It should be part of your plan, and you should be doing it more consciously than just doing it without even knowing the repercussions as to why you're doing this, right? So that becomes the outline objectives, the second step, right? Which defines the O of the goals framework. So once both of these are done, then what do we do? The third step, which is A in goals, that talks about actionable plans, right? So again, taking the two examples, I'll try to explain as to what actionable plans would mean. That now using the first two steps, you know where you stand right now, and you also know where you want to go, and then you also have a very immediate outlined objective set as well, right, as to what exactly you want to do next, right? If you're into debt, you'd want to become debt free. If you're not into debt, then you would want to start investing, um, and then aggressively compound your wealth, and then become financially free eventually. So now, given where you are right now and what are your outlined objectives at this point in time, you will want to create your actionable plans, right? And then why we are calling it actionable plans and why this is different than the earlier step, which is outline objectives, is that in the outline objective step, we are just conceptualizing as to what we need to do. But for that item to materialize in the physical world, you will need to take some actions, right? You will need to take some actions, you will need to do things, right? And uh, and what are these things, right? So again, take the example of somebody or a family which is into debt right now. They will need to start prepaying their debt, right? They will need to start aggressively pay their loans so that they become debt free earlier, right, sooner than later. So that is an actionable item. Somebody who is wanting to generate a lot of wealth over a period of time, and but is only investing through debt based instruments, right, which gives you a meager interest of around 7%, right, and but is wanting to grow their wealth faster, then they will need to look into other asset classes, maybe equity, or other risky asset classes, right? And these are the due diligence that the person, the family will need to do. And if they do not do this, then they do not have an action item, right? So in the outline objective, what we did is that we figured out what is it exactly that we need to do next. And then action items is nothing but a detailed steps, right? What all we will need to do. If we are investing into, let's say, only fixed deposits or other debt-based instruments, then what will it take us to grow our investment faster? What are the other securities, right? What are other asset classes that we can look into? And that is the kind of a plan that we will need to create and figure out ways to achieve our immediate next outlined objective from this step two. And that is all which is going to be part of the actionable plans, right? It may also happen that you may want to rebalance your portfolio a little, right? So what happens in the actionable plans is that and this is totally based out of my conversations with people which I've had over the years, is that everybody has a very specific asset class that they have as their favorite asset class, right? So what happens is that somebody who understands real estate really well would continue to invest into real estate, right? They will buy real estate, residential, commercial. They will buy a piece of land, put a fence, and then keep it like that ways, and then they will continue to do anything that they invest into real estate as well, right? Some people have fondness for gold. They'll continue to buy physical gold. They will buy gold biscuits, keep it in the locker. They'll buy sovereign gold bonds and all of these, and then they will also buy gold ETFs. But then the point that I'm trying to tell you is that most people have their favorite asset classes, and then they mostly invest in a manner that their 100% of the capital, or if not 100, but then the majority of the capital is logged into a fixed asset class, right? And see, for safer asset classes like debt or gold, it is still okay because you're not risking a lot of your money uh, into riskier assets. But the problem is that your wealth then in that case grows really, really slow. And you may not be able to create generational wealth in that ways. The other problem, the other side of the spectrum is where people who are fond of equities or other risky asset classes, they will probably do more than 80% of their investments into these risky asset classes. And what happens in that case is that if they are not doing their risk allocation well, then they may have a lot of drawdowns, and that is going to be detrimental for their wealth creation journey. So all I'm trying to help you understand here is that we'll need to be very sure what exactly is something that we'll be okay with or happy with when it comes to allocating our assets, and accordingly create an action plan, right? There are many ways in which we can do it in a manner where we do not lose the peace of mind or the other good night's sleep. If done well, we can continue to benefit from both um, the safety and security of a debt based instrument, and also from the growth that you can actually get from the equity side of your allocation. So creating an actionable item which suits you and then also gives you best of both the worlds is where the sweet spot lies. And that is why our outlined objectives should be first framed, and based on that the actionable plans should be created, right? So I'll give you a very small example, and this is something probably which is going to give put things into perspective, and then you will understand as to why I'm advocating that you should do a mix of both. Is that usually it is recommended that, and you may have observed this as well, right, that riskier asset classes are pretty volatile in the short to medium term, right? So anything which is less than 5 years, I'll say, you should not, any goal that you have which is going to materialize within the next 3 to 5 years, be it children's higher education, your own retirement, or buying a house or any big ticket purchase, right, that you are planning for, and that is going to come within the next 3 to 5 years, you should never park that kind of a money into equities, right? And because equity is usually very volatile in the short to medium term, but then eventually if you look at it, it is going to give you a pretty good return. But in case of debt, you do not have that as a problem, right? Your FD will never go down, right? Your bonds, the government bonds, they're definitely not going to go down in value. They are only going to step up in value. But the problem is that the growth is very slow, right? So wherever we need safety and security, we use our debt-based instruments, and then wherever we have goals which are not going to materialize in the at least next 5 years, that is where we take slightly more risk, and then that is where we let the money compound, and that is how we play this. So actionable plans should take care of both of these, right? Anything which is in the short term goal, because we have already gained clarity in the first step. We already cleared that we have to define the objectives in the second step. So any objective that we have that we need to meet, and all of these are, by the way, non-negotiable objectives, right? Something that I need to achieve in the next 3 years is also non-negotiable, and something which is a goal for me in the next 15 years is also again non-negotiable for me. And how do I get the best of both the worlds, where not just our investment goals are met, but also they are kind of played in a manner that we do not take undue risk. And for that to happen, we will need to do both. We'll need to allocate based on our debt as well as our equity allocations, and already clarified, right? Anything less than 5 years is go with debt, and anything more than 5 years, you can take slightly more exposure on the equity allocation, and that is the way to look at it. So that is step number three. In the goals framework, moving on to the fourth element, which is L, and that is what um, represents the leverage resources part, right? So what it means is that you allocate your resources effectively to support your goals, right? And part of it I kind of already explained in the actionable plans, right? Because in the actionable plans you will figure out how to achieve, what steps you'll need to do to what steps you'll need to do to achieve your short, medium, and long term goals, how, what kind of allocation you'll need to do. And in the leverage resources, what we can do is that what we're trying to tell you is that we figure out ways in which we can actually jack up the game for you, right? And or you can do it for yourself. What it means is that, let's say there's a higher education goal that you have for your children, that you need to meet, and that is only going to be needed in like 12 to 15 years from now. then even with a smaller allocation in that kitty and and a higher rate of return or expected rate of return, you can actually meet that goal, even with a smaller allocation right now. And that is where the leverage resources part come into the picture, where we allocate our resources in a manner where we allocate more to our shorter term goals, where the money is going to compound at a lesser rate because we need more safety. But for things which are far away, where we of course need safety there, right? We definitely do not want to risk it in a manner that it blows off and we're left with nothing. But we can still take slightly more risk. And since we have a long time horizon, and then compounding is also going to play in our favor, in that case, even if we allocate lesser resources there for our long term goals, this is going to work in our favor. And why this will work in our favor is because of the three things, right? Compounding is going to work in your favor, since you are allocating for long term in riskier assets, there the returns is also going to be higher, right? And all of these returns is kind of accumulating in your portfolio itself, and that is also going to compound within your portfolio. So all of these three clubbed together is going to give you that leverage to compound in a manner that even if you allocate lesser to your long-term goals, you're still going to be okay. And that is where we deal with that is what we deal with in this step, where we kind of look at it from a short to medium to a long term horizon, and then play them differently, right? Anything which is going to materialize in the next 2 years, we are more focused there, because that is the near term goal, and then that is kind of non negotiable. And the ones which are far away, we definitely keep them in the site as well, but we really do not worry about if they're going down in value or if they're not doing so well, because we still have a lot of time to for them to play it in our favor. And usually if you let it play out all by itself and you have done your allocation correctly, then you really do not need to worry about it a lot. So that is step number 4. What is the fifth step? So the last one is that where we need to be a little agile, right? In the goals framework, the last step is S, and what it says is that stay flexible. So why we need to stay flexible is because we think of it this way, right? Even if you look at the safer instruments, right, which is mostly people's favorite, fixed deposit, right? If you look at what has happened to fixed deposit interest rates during the last 2 to 5 years, uh, do you remember if they always remain fixed or they keep changing, right? So you may have seen in the last 5 years, they may have you may have seen peaks of 9.5%. You may have also seen lows of around 6 to 6.25% or something like that, right? So that is the range, right? Around 3% or more than that, more than 3 to 5%, 3 to 3.5% is kind of the variation you may have seen in the last 3 to 5 years. Now, what I'm trying to emphasize on this fifth step is that we'll need to be a little flexible, right? Because we may do all of these maths, using a calculator, using Excel, all of this said and done is going to play out well. But economy goes through its own cycles, right? And you really don't know what kind of a cycle stage you are on to right now. And depending on uh, how the cycle of the economy is going to play out after you make your investments is where you'll need to be a little flexible, right? So all of this allocation that we just talked about may need to be tweaked a little, right? It's like you starting on a trip to a destination, and then you have everything set, right? You have your car ready, everything is all done, but then you slightly figure out that maybe the tire pressure is a little less, right? Because you're not feeling the comfort while driving, and you think that this needs a little testing, or it needs recheck and stuff like that. So what do? You kind of stop, and then you get it rechecked, and then figure out that everything is all right, and then you continue with the journey, right? And this is something which is going to happen with your financial instruments as well, right? The way you may be planning that your equity is going to play out, it may play out a little better, it may play out a little worse than that, right? So what will you do? Eventually, what needs to happen is that even after you have planned and done all of these uh, planning and then execution from your side, it may not turn out to be exactly the same. It may turn out to be better, it may turn out to be a little uh, worse than how you wanted this to be. So what exactly you'll need to do? You'll need to then, in that case, replan a little, right? And then tweak your allocations accordingly. Let's say if your equity is not working out the way you wanted, right? Then there are multiple ways of handling this, right? Maybe you'll need to start taking a little more risk. That's one. You can also start adding a little more allocation from your side. There are a number of ways, right, of doing this. You may be wanting to take some professional help on that, right? You may be wanting to figure out professionals who can give you or provide you those portfolio management services and stuff like that, right? So all of this is something which eventually happens when you are part of the journey, onto the journey already, and that is where staying a little more flexible is kind of required. And this is something which is eventually going to happen when you start on this journey, because once you set on the journey, when you start on the journey, you cannot really envision as to what is going to happen exactly 8 years or 10 years from now. A lot of situations may change with the economy, with the country, the industry in which you have invested, with yourself, you really don't know. And all of these tweaks actually is required. And once that is done right, people are able to actually benefit, right? So that is all which I want to let you guys know today. I'll just quickly summarize for the benefit of everyone. We went through this goals framework, GOALS, and this is exactly the framework which we talked about today, which is what we can use to set our financial goals, right? How this is what we can use to set our financial goals pretty quickly and pretty clearly. What we saw is that these 5 steps are kind of an acronym, and I'll just quickly reiterate the acronym for you so that you're able to actually keep a note of it, and then is able to memorize as well. And this is something which is going to help you as well. So the first step is gain clarity of your current situation, gain clarity on where exactly you want to go, and what are the different steps that you'll need to do to achieve them. The second step is outline objectives, right? What it means is that okay, we know where exactly we are, we know where exactly we want to go. What is my immediate next milestone where we want to go? So that is the O in goals. Once we know our next milestone, or we know our objectives, which are the intermediate objectives that we need to reach or meet in our journey to the goals. We move to the next step, which is actionable plans. Because in the physical world, if we do not act, then nothing changes as well. So we need to know exactly what we need to do, and that is what we define in the actionable plans, which is the A in goals. And once that is done, then we start allocating resources, right? We figured out a plan, but if we do not act, then nothing is going to change as well. So then we start deploying our resources accordingly, right? Based on the previous steps plan, which is actionable plans, we start executing those, right? And that is what we call as leverage resources. And what is the resources that we're talking about? Of course, this is your capital, your financial capital that we deploy, and that is what is leverage resources. And once all of this is done, we of course do not need to do anything, of course, but how the market plays out and how the market behaves, or how the market condition changes after we start on this journey. We'll need to keep a watch on that, and we will need to be flexible, flexible so that we can adapt, right? No plan, no plan when you start executing continues to work the way Rishabh, S means stay flexible. Yeah, stay flexible. So you'll need to be flexible so that as and when the way, if things do not work out your way, then then you adapt, right? I'll give you a cricket analogy to do this, right? So let's say a team is chasing 300 runs in the second innings, right? And then they think that okay, what we'll do is that we'll start to be as close to six run rate, right, per over, and we will see after 10 overs how we are doing on our number of wickets which have fallen, and then we will take a call accordingly. So let's say after five overs, what happens is that they see that they have only scored 10 runs and three wickets have fallen. Do you think they will still continue to chase the six runs per uh, over target? They will not. They will slow down. They'll start to now preserve the wickets, right, and probably play with the same run rate so that they can slog it at the later end, right? But on the contrary, if they start in a manner where they have scored 100 runs in 10 overs and then they have not lost any wicket, do you think they will bring down the run rate now? No, they will accelerate and try to finish the game in 30 overs instead, right? So that is how we do our balancing, or that is how we also need to stay flexible, and that is how we need to as and when required, change the stance as well, change our actions as well, and then rebalance accordingly. So I hope this may have helped you guys to learn something new, may have given you some framework as to how you can actually also plan your financials correctly and meet your goals. I will be taking questions if I come across any. Let me just go through them. If you guys have any, please do let me know, and I will be able to help you there. Goal while listening. Thanks, Rishabh, for your comments. Thanks, Kishore, for answering the question. If there are any more questions, do let me know. Please put it in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer them right now. And if not, you can also leave them as questions later on as well. The video is definitely going to be available, and I'll continue to answer them there. Yes, Rishabh. You can go to my LinkedIn profile. You can book a session. We can do more targeted one-to-one discussions as well. And yeah. So it looks like we do not have any further questions. So with that, thank you everyone who joined and stayed till the end. Thanks for your time, and I'll continue to do these. I think every 3 weeks, and we'll continue to do so. So until we meet next, this is Manish signing off. Thanks for joining in, guys, and have a good rest of the Sunday evening. Thanks and bye bye for now.